If your hips and lower back feel uneven or out of alignment, the exercises in this video can help you to fix it. My name is Dr. Jared, and in most instances, this feeling out of alignment in our hips and lower back is primarily a muscular problem. And here's why it happens. You have your hip abductors over here on the side, whose primary job is to keep that pelvis nice and flat, nice and neutral. If you have weakness, what happens is one hip can drop, and that results in this unevenness at your hips. Well, your spine that comes off of your pelvis, we don't walk around tilted over here like this. And so you've got muscles up in your lower back that fire and contract that are actually going to straighten out your upper back to hold your shoulders and your eyes level. So we have tightness in our quadratus lumborum, that's that lower back muscle, and we have weakness in our hips, which results in the shift in the pelvis. And so in order to fix this problem, we need to stretch that tight muscle in our lower back to straighten out our spine. We need to strengthen those weak muscles in our hips to level out our pelvis. And then we need to strengthen and stabilize both of those areas together so this problem doesn't come back. That's the benefit that I hope that you get from this video. I hope you get great relief from this. Let's go ahead and jump in. Let's start with some of the best stretches for that tight lower back quadratus lumborum muscle. Now, in theory, you're going to have one side that's tighter than the other. Usually it's the side that your hip is higher as that muscle tries to straighten out your lower back. But what I would encourage you to do is try these to both sides, see if there is one that's tighter than the other, and then that's the side that we're going to focus on. So let's start by showing you just a simple child's pose stretch. You're going to get down on all fours, hands here on the floor, and then we're just going to sit down onto our heels until we round out the lower back. That's the child's pose stretch, but we're going to do a slight variation on that. What I want you to do is actually separate your knees out a little wider. That allows us to sit down a little deeper into the stretch. But then rather than keeping your hands straight in front of you, I want you to walk your hands over to one side. So right now I'm going to walk my hands way over here to the right. And now as I sit down, I'm going to sit down and to my left. So rather than straight back down, you're going to sit down and to the left until you feel a really good stretch in that left side of your lower back. If I walk my hands to the right, that is going to stretch out the left side. And then you can repeat that to the other side as well. So now walk your hands over to the left, sit down and to the right until you get a good stretch down in that right side. Is there one side that's tighter than the other? That's the side that we should probably focus a little bit more of our stretching on. And usually what I do is I recommend that we hold that for about 10 seconds down in that position, come out of it, and then get back into it again, and we'll repeat that 10 times. And then the other stretch that I love is called the ballerina stretch. You'll see why here in just a second. If this was my high hip, again, in theory, that's where my tightness is going to be in my lower back. What I want to do is cross my other leg over the front. So this is my right hip. I'm going to stretch my right side by crossing my left leg over the front. And now what I want to do is push this hip over here to the right side as far as it can go. As I put my weight on that left foot, push my hip over here to the right, with my right hand, I'm actually going to reach up and over my head and reach in the left direction or in the opposite direction. Basically, what I'm trying to do is make the entire right side of my body as long as I possibly can. Or to stretch that muscle specifically, think of pulling your ribs away from the top of your pelvis, creating as much space as we can in that area. We're going to hold that in a comfortable position for about 20 seconds and then repeat that 3 times. Again, I would encourage you to try this on both sides just to keep things even to see how it feels. With that lower back stretched out, the next thing we need to do is strengthen those weak hips to hold our pelvis in a better alignment. Here are the 3 exercises that I like to do that. Go ahead and lie down on your side with your knees bent. We're going to start with some clamshells. Keep the soles of your feet together, engage these muscles here on the side and in your glute to just pull your knees apart, hold 1, 2, and then return back down to that starting position. This is a simple exercise. This is a great place that is really safe for most people to start, but when you start to put in enough reps, you're definitely gonna feel those hip muscles working. I recommend that you start with about 3 sets of 10, but move into 3 sets of 15 and even 3 sets of 20 as your strength allow. And with all these hip exercises, I recommend we keep things even and perform them on both sides. The next exercise is going to be a side-lying hip abduction. I'm going to keep my down leg, my bottom leg bent, so my left leg is going to stay bent, but now I'm going to straighten out this right side. Hold that leg nice and straight, engage these muscles right up here on the outside of your hip, on the back of your glute, to lift your heel up towards the ceiling and slightly behind you. Hold 1, 2, and then slowly return right back down to that starting position. Make sure you keep this one right up here in the hip abductors. A lot of times people will roll to the back and turn it into a hip flexor exercise. As long as your hips are stacked one on top of the other, and as long as you're focusing on pulling your heel up towards the ceiling, you're gonna feel it up here in the right spot. And usually 10 to 15 reps, repeated 3 times on both sides is the number that I would recommend. Our last exercise to strengthen weak hips and level out our pelvis is called hip hikes. And if you remember from the intro, weakness in this hip causes the other hip to drop. So usually it's weakness in your higher hip that results in that unevenness in your hip. And so in order to train that, what I want you to do is stand on the edge of a stair or a small step with that high hip. So if my right hip were higher, that's the one that I want to train first. Now in this position, I want you to go loose on this right side or on the side that you're standing on and let that opposite hip drop down. And so right now I'm standing with my right foot on the stair. A good way to visualize this is to just let your left foot drop down below the level of the stair. Now what I want you to do is engage these muscles over here on the side of your hip to actually pull this other side of your pelvis higher than the stance leg. Or visualize it another way, I want you to pull your other leg higher than the stair. And so then we're gonna go back to that starting position. So right here, my left leg drops below the level of the stair. I'm gonna fire these muscles in the right hip to raise this left hip up so that my left foot is higher than the level of the stair. And then we're going to slowly return back down to that starting position. And my recommendation here is about 10 reps, repeated 3 times. And again, I do like to repeat that on both sides. If you've been following along with the exercises so far, your hips and back are probably feeling pretty good as we've worked them back into a better alignment. In fact, I would love to hear from you. Comment your experience with these exercises down below. I always love to hear from you. I love to hear your stories. But what we need to do now is strengthen and stabilize in this new improved position so that your back and hips stay in this better alignment and we prevent any problems in the future. And so that's what these last 2 exercises are meant to do. But before we jump into those, I just have to ask, have you had a chance to check out Tone and Tighten's new members area here on YouTube? We have bonus videos, we have other perks available for you over there. If you want to support me, if you want to support the channel, I'd encourage you to check that out. Hit join down below, and thank you so much for doing that. Okay, let's jump into these exercises. One of my all-time favorites at strengthening the, we call it lateral pillar, including those hips and up into the lower back, is going to be a side plank. And there are a couple of variations that I like to show people on this based on your strength and ability. And so what I'm going to do is lie down here on my left side. The simplest version to start with would be a modified side plank. I'm going to bend my bottom leg, so I'm on my left elbow, my left leg is bent, and then I'm going to lift my hips up off of the floor. So we're going to engage the obliques, we're going to actually engage that quadratus lumborum in the back, and we're going to engage these hip abductors to pull our hips up towards the ceiling. And for a lot of people, we'll start by holding here in a static position, about 15 to 20 seconds, 3 times. If you're capable of more, we're going to turn that into a more dynamic exercise by adding some hip dips. And so now what I want you to do is pull your top hip up towards the ceiling and then let the bottom hip come down just above the floor. Don't lay down completely on the floor, but just above the floor, and then we're going to fire it again to lift this hip up towards the ceiling. By making it dynamic, we just kick those muscles on a little bit more. We give them a little more to work against. And it's a great exercise for that reason. And on that, typically 10 repetitions repeated 3 times. Once that becomes easy, I would encourage you to go to the full plank position. So now I'm just going to extend my leg. So I'm on the outside of my left leg, I'm on my left elbow, and the same progression applies. We can start with a static hold 3 times 20 to 30 seconds, and then we can work into even this hip dip as strength allows. About 3 sets of 10 reps is what I typically recommend. And then the last exercise is going to be a bird dog. This is one of my favorites for that quadratus lumborum, and it also teaches the hips to fire with those lower back muscles as well. So we're down here on all fours. I'm going to extend this right leg straight back behind me. I want your hips to stay nice and level. Most people will roll that hip up towards the ceiling. I want you to keep it down in this level position. And then we're going to also extend the opposite arm out over your head. So my right leg kicks back, my left arm reaches forward. Everything's in this really good, really tight, stable alignment. I'm gonna hold 1, 2, and then I'm gonna return to the starting position and then repeat that same motion over here on the other side. Again, paying particular attention to that alignment, feeling those muscles in the glutes and in the lower back fire and work as we train and stabilize in that really nice position. 3 sets of 10 reps on each side is a great number to shoot for. I hope these help with the alignment in your hips and back. Hope you feel better, and thank you so much for watching.